Texas pastor is accused of shocking and disturbing sex crimes in a case that goes back years.
It's a requirement in this life because the devil wants you to fail.
Allegations that have left his small congregation reeling and questioning everything they believed.
God, could you please give me some light?
What was once a trusted voice guiding a community is now at the center of a criminal investigation. And we'll talk about the shocking family tragedy that seems to allegedly line up with when authorities say the alleged sex crimes occurred.
She looked at the calendar, January 23rd, 2034, and she froze, because that date means two completely different things to two completely different people in this story. To one woman, it's the day she buried her husband's first wife. To a young girl, according to what prosecutors now allege, it's the day something started that would not end for 10 months. Same date. Same house? Maybe. Same man. I need you to sit with that for a second before we go any further. This is the story of George Finny, senior pastor, New Life Kennethic Church, Liberty County, Texas.
The devil loves to isolate you because isolation makes a weak Christian.
That is George Finny, senior pastor of the New Life Kennethic Church in Liberty County, Texas. Liberty County, we're talking about an hour or so outside of Houston.
A man who stood in front of a congregation every single Sunday and told them how to spot the devil's tricks, isolation, weakness, darkness. He had a phrase for all of it. And now, the charges against him read like they were pulled from his own sermons. Here's the thing, though. This isn't really a story about one pastor in one small Texas town. You already know that. You've seen this movie before, haven't you? A trusted man, a pulpit, a community that believed every word, and underneath it, something nobody wanted to look at too closely. We all knew somebody like this once, maybe not this exact man, but you know the type, the one everybody says could never. And then it turns out they could. Let's lay out what we actually know, because the details here matter, and the timeline is the part that should make your stomach turn. George Finny became lead pastor at New Life Kennethic back in 2016. 9 years building a name in that community, 9 years of Sunday mornings, Bible studies, weddings, funerals. The kind of trust that takes a decade to build and, if these charges are true, about 10 seconds to destroy. His church bio still sitting on their website days after his arrest called him loving, fun, energetic. A man who could take the deepest scripture and make it simple for regular people to understand. It also mentioned, almost in passing, that his wife had passed away suddenly.
His bio at the time of this recording is still up on the church website, and it's a bio that reads that he came to the place of worship to make it a powerful New Testament church. He's described as a loving, fun, and energetic pastor who has the ability to teach even the deepest of scriptural truths in the simplest of ways. On a personal note, it also mentions in his bio,
January 2024. Remember that month. Write it down if you have to, because everything that follows hinges on it.
And what we're talking about today are just allegations, and no matter what, the fact that his wife died suddenly, that is incredibly tragic.
Now here's where it gets interesting. On June 30 of this year, Liberty County prosecutors filed criminal complaints against Finny. 3 of them: continuous sexual abuse of a child 14 or younger, indecency with a child by exposure, and assault of a family member by impeding breath. In plain English, choking someone in his own household.
We're going to get into those charges. We have the criminal complaints for each count. The Liberty County Sheriff's Office arrested Pastor Finny in the final days of June. Criminal complaints in his case mark June 30th on charges of sexual abuse of a child 14 or younger continuous, indecency with a child by exposure, and assault of a family or household member by impeding breath or circulation.
Read that list again. A pastor, choking allegations, child sex abuse allegations, all under one roof. And the date range on the sexual abuse charge, on or about January 23rd, 2024 through October 5th, 10 months.
I want to start with the charge of sexual abuse of a child, and it's a disturbing thing to read. It says, quote, during a period that was 30 or more days in duration, namely from or about January 23rd, 2024, and I'm going to continue to mark that date. It is very important when we talk about this story, through October 5th, 2024, when the defendant...
Now go back to that obituary. George Finny's first wife untimely passed, the obituary says, on January 23rd, 2024, the exact same day.
We found an online obituary that shows that George Finny's first wife, quote, untimely passed on January 23rd, 2024, the same day that law enforcement alleged that Finny choked a member of his own family and sexually abused a child under the age of 14. Now, we don't know.
Let that land for a second, because I had to read it 3 times myself before I actually believed what I was looking at. We don't know how his first wife died. We don't know her relationship to the alleged victim or the person he's accused of choking. Nobody's saying those pieces connect yet. Actually, let me be careful here, because that's an important distinction. What we're saying, that the calendar overlaps in a way that should make any investigator ask more questions. That's it. That's the fact. Everything else is a question mark, and I think you deserve to sit in that question mark with me instead of me pretending I have an answer I don't. But here's what nobody talks about in stories like this. It's never really about one date. It's about all the dates around it. The Sundays that kept happening. The sermons that kept getting posted. Life going on exactly as normal while something else was allegedly happening behind a closed door. Finny moved on with his life after his wife died, remarried in 2025. And just last month, on June 2nd, he posted on Facebook that he and his new wife had welcomed a baby girl.
Now, outside of work, it appears that George Finny is also a husband and a father. We found this post on Facebook from 2025 where he was set to marry a new woman. And then this year, just last month, it appears that Finny became a dad. On Facebook, he posted on June 2nd, quote, "After a long up and down process, we finally got to meet our beautiful baby girl."
She told them she didn't believe her husband could do what he's accused of. And look, I'm not going to sit here and a woman holding her newborn baby while her husband's name is attached to charges like this. That's not outrage, that's just cruelty. But I want you to notice something. She also posted online days later that the name of the baby was her #1 priority and that she would not let the enemy win. That's not a defense of innocence. That's a woman bracing for impact.
Now, KTRK Television went to Finny's house in the wake of his arrest, and they say his current wife, who was the woman who he married in 2025, answered the door holding a newborn child, and she told the TV station that she's shocked and she does not believe that her husband would do what he is accused of. Now, we'll have more on what she had to say in just a moment.
A long up and down process, he called it. Finally got to meet her. Weeks later, he was in handcuffs. When a local news crew showed up at his house after the arrest, his current wife answered the door, holding the newborn.
Days after Pastor Finny's arrest went public, quote, "I'm still in a state of shock and confusion. I'm beyond heartbroken and most definitely stressed out. One thing for sure is, the name of the baby, is my #1 priority, and I will make sure she's okay above anything else right now. If I haven't responded to you, it's not because I don't care or love you. It's because I have no words, really. No matter what happens, I will not allow the enemy to win. I will not allow this to take away what Jesus and I worked so hard for," end quote. She also, on July 2nd, posted, quote, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger."
Here's a moment I want to slow down on, because I don't say this lightly. I've covered a lot of cases on this channel. A lot of bad men who did bad things in nice buildings with nice titles. And every single time, there's a version of this story where somebody, somewhere, saw something and said nothing. I don't know if that's what happened here. I genuinely don't. But every time I read one of these complaints, I think about the kid. Not the pastor, not the wife. The kid who apparently remembered exact dates. January 23rd to October 5th. 10 months. Remembered in enough detail to put in a legal document. Think about what it takes for a child to hold on to dates like that. That's not something you forget. That's something that's carved into you. Okay? Back to the facts, because there's more here that should bother you. Days after his arrest, Finny's bio, his picture, his sermons, all of it was still live on the church's website and social media.
Well, again, I don't, even if it's a slow website department, there's no excuse at all for having his information still up on the church website. I mean, the second he gets arrested, within hours, that should be removed. To have it up there and to still have the videos of his sermons up there and his bio, that just is just very poor management by the church. It sends the wrong message, and it might be an honest mistake, and they just didn't get around to it. But again, that's just common sense that immediately comes down. And there's no reason to have that up there. Look, if he's acquitted, it's all a big mistake. Nothing happened. Okay.
Not scrubbed, not hidden, just sitting there like nothing happened. The church did release a statement. They said leadership was aware of the serious allegations, that Finny was relieved of his duties the moment they found out, that their hearts go out to the victim and her family, and that they're cooperating with law enforcement. Standard language.
This is a statement that the New Life Kennethic Church sent Fox 26 in Houston in the wake of their lead pastor's arrest. This is what it says, quote, "We, the leadership of New Life Kennethic, are aware of the serious allegations and criminal charges involving our pastor, George Finny. From the moment we were made aware of these allegations, he was relieved of his duties here at our church. We are deeply saddened, and our hearts go out to all who are being affected by this, especially the victim and her family. We are cooperating fully with law enforcement in the legal process. Our church takes the safety and well-being of children and vulnerable individuals very seriously. This being an ongoing investigation, we will not comment any further. We ask for privacy for those involved," end quote.
150,000 total. Booked June 29th, out the very next day. For a man facing continuous child sexual abuse charges and a choking allegation, that number is low. Not illegally low, not unusual for how bail works in Texas, but low enough that a civil attorney who spent decades on cases like this looked at it and said, flat out, he was surprised.
Now, as far as this case and where it goes from here, online court records show that Finny received bonds of $50,000 per charge. So for a total of $150,000, he was booked on June 29th into the county jail in Liberty, and then he posted that bond the next day on January 30th. The case status right now is listed as pending.
The kind of statement you could copy and paste onto almost any institution facing this exact situation. And maybe that's fine. Maybe that's just what an appropriate, careful statement looks like when a legal case is still pending. But you have to ask yourself, if the words say, relieved of his duties, why does his name stay on the homepage? Why do his old sermons stay up teaching people about isolation and weakness and darkness while he's out on bond for allegedly doing exactly the kind of thing he warned people about? That's the part that sticks with me, not because it proves anything about guilt. It doesn't. But because it tells you something about how slowly institutions move, even when the accusations are this serious. Now about that bond, $50,000 per charge.
Yeah, I was surprised it was so low, and I was surprised. That's a very low number. Easily posted bail, back out in the community. I'm sure there's restrictions on his movements and his interactions with the minor. But again, it's a bit frustrating because we don't know the facts. We know what the charges are, and the charges they sound incredibly serious on their face, and I'm sure they are. But we don't know the details. We don't know what this choking incident is all about. We don't know what the actual acts of sexual abuse are about, or how many there were. And so again, it's we wish there was some more information out there. I'm sure there will be at some point, but right now we're kind of surmising what went down. But I agree with you. I thought, even given the little we know about it, the fact that he posted bail, relatively low amount of bail, I was surprised by that for sure.
He's out there right now, living in that house with that newborn. Here's what nobody wants to say out loud. The system worked exactly the way it's designed to work. Charges filed. Bond set. Due process moving forward slowly the way it always does. And that's supposed to make us feel better. Innocent until proven guilty. Fair trial. All of it real, all of it important. But if you're the alleged victim in this case, a person who, according to the complaint, was 14 or younger when this started, does any of that process feel like justice yet? Or does it feel like watching the man who's supposed to have hurt you get back to his normal life while you wait for a courtroom date that might be months, maybe years away? I don't have an answer for that. I don't think anybody does. What I do know is this: Liberty County isn't a big place.
Yeah, look, if true, right now they're just allegations, but if true, it's devastating to this small community and to this church community out there. I mean, apparently Finny, the pastor, he was there for at least 10 years. He's been there since like 2016, and and obviously had a big following, and people would really rely upon him to be a pillar of the community, and to suddenly out of the blue have these charges brought. I mean, it's got to be devastating to parishioners, and they've got to question, hey, how does this happen, and what in the world is going on behind the scenes, and how did this go on for so long and people didn't know about it?
This is the kind of community where everybody's second cousin goes to the same 3 churches, where the pastor isn't just a guy with a job. He's the person who married your parents, buried your grandmother, prayed over your kids at the hospital. When a man like that gets arrested on charges like this, it doesn't just wound one family. It cracks something open in an entire town's sense of who they can trust. And that's really the question this case leaves us with, isn't it? Not just did he do it, but how many more of these are out there right now, still preaching every Sunday, still smiling in family photos, still one calendar date away from everything falling apart? The case is pending. We'll be watching it closely, and if new details come out, we'll bring them to you the second they do. But I want to ask you something before you go. If you had a pastor, a coach, a teacher, someone in a position like this in your own life who you started to question, what made you notice? What was the moment the mask slipped, even a little? Tell me in the comments, because I think a lot of people watching this already know exactly what I'm talking about.